ready to settle in for some more laws of reciting the Shema and proper places to recite the Shema. Excuse me. The proper thing to do with regarding proper places is to check to make sure that they are always clean. So we are picking up today with more of those laws. We are now in the laws of the bathroom and the recitation of Shema. So we already said that you have lots of opportunities to stay far, far away from things that are kind of gross, like excrement and urine, and smelly, stinky animals, and smelly, stinky animal excrement, and smelly, stinky children, and smelly, stinky people, and people who make a mess of themselves, yada, 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 yada. And stay away from that before reciting Shema. Okay? Not an excuse to not help people who are needing help. Sometimes people who are in those situations do need some care, but don't recite the Shema there, don't recite brachas there until the place is clean. Okay, so in continuing with how to have a holy place to recite, have a holy encampment. Now we're talking about the latrine itself. So we've been talking about how that's not cool. Okay, that stuff we've mentioned a few times. These are where the actual halachas are discussed. So this is where the actual prohibition, where it's prohibited to recite the Shema while facing an old bathroom. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a second. What does it mean old bathroom? It's an old bathroom, even if you have removed all the excrement from it. Okay, and the Shulchan Aruch adds his own novel explanation over here. It says, and it appears to me that even if it doesn't have any divisions or walls set up or anything like that, okay, but if it has those, even though it's considered an old one and it has excrement in it, then one could recite the Shema while facing it away from it, even though while you're near it. Okay, assuming that you can't smell anything, right? And if there's no bad smell. Okay, so that is the first law. So he makes a novel distinction over there. So close the door to the bathroom and seal it with walls. Okay, so then stay away from the porta potty. Now, what do we say you can't face the bathroom? So if you're looking at a place that was generally used for that means as far as the eye can see. Okay, and if you turn your back to it, at least far enough away where it's outside of your general vicinity, the Arba Amos, and you can't smell it. Okay, so that's a general rule that we've learned in all these laws. So the prohibition here, according to the Shulchan Aruch, is a Torah prohibition. The Mishnah Berurah explains that since this place was already meant to be used like this multiple times, this is the opposite. Ein zeh machanech hakadosh. Right? The opposite of what we just started with. This is not a holy encampment, not a holy place. So if you think it might be a toilet or it might be a latrine or people might go to the bathroom here, then you have to be strict because it's a Torah level prohibition. And take a look earlier about this when we said that was a case by any type of excrement in chapter 76. Okay, and then it was in the 7th halacha there. So you can either go with the Shulchan Aruch directly or go to our online learning and just scroll around until you find it. Or if someone wants to volunteer their time, they can go ahead and mark off in the video where all the different Simanim are. Down it's in the Seifim are. And so the chiddush he has over here, the novel explanation is it doesn't have any walls around it. Okay? And this isn't so novel, the Mishnah Berurah explains, because we said that if this was in the back of a house or behind a fence, that would have been an exceptional case as well, where you would not have been required to walk the full distance away. So even if you don't make this into a regular bathroom, since people go there regularly, there is a general assumption that this is an established bathroom area. Okay, before they had sewage systems regularly, which we did talk about a couple weeks ago, because we saw in chapter 42 that if people are putting on tefillin, okay, and if you wrap up tefillin, you can't enter that spot, okay. And so you can't wrap anything else in that bag. So too over here, if the spot is designated as a bathroom, that it's going to be stuck in that designation. So that's why having walls would make this different. Okay, and the walls, the Mishnah Berurah explains, have to go all the way to the ground, and there can't be a space underneath it, or it has to go within at least close to the ground. Okay, so that you couldn't have little animals breaking in underneath, like goats and stuff. So this would be a prohibition. Otherwise, which you saw earlier, which we would see later, that if you don't have a wall there, it would be prohibited. We'll talk about that in 87 later on. Okay. And so you also can't smell. We also say you can't smell the bad smell, because then you would have to be far enough away where you can't smell the smell, and then take another big step away, the one body length away. Okay, so that's what it says. So the prohibition here, the prohibition being permitted by the author here, is when the walls themselves are not 10 tfachim high. They're about 35 to 40 inches high. So most people say they have to be at least 40 inches high, and they have to go all the way to the ground. Okay, but some people even say nope. They don't even agree with this permissive stance of the Shulchan Aruch at all, and because since the walls themselves could themselves receive excrement at any time, someone could hit the sides, or you could miss the hole and hit the sides, right? You know, hate to be so blunt about it, but sometimes people are just, when they're not paying attention, they miss and they hit something else. You miss the hole and you hit the sides basically, and then now the actual walls themselves are no different than a latrine itself, which you saw earlier, mentioned it in the previous Siman, and we'll see later on in 87 that a latrine itself, the actual toilet, is a problem. Okay, and so the Vilna Gaon himself is also strict in these cases. So that's what they hold. And so therefore you have to stay away even from the outside of it. So if it's something where it's like an outhouse, and and you can see it there, even though the outhouse itself is closed, you can't see any of the excrement. That still might have the same problem. So the best thing to do to satisfy this other opinion, according to Mishnah Berurah, is that you should build some other portico around your restroom, and you should do it in such a way that the doorway and the walls of the bathroom don't face in the same direction as your little portico. So basically, make like an interior bathroom. Okay. So that's what they're saying is the best way, and then you could go ahead and be in your yard or any such place with doing that. And you also can't leave a ventilation system directly into like a window open, but you can have a ventilation system, because at least the ventilation system is closed and has a wall there and just small holes in it. It's considered basically closed off, so you could ventilate it so the smell doesn't collect in there. And then you'd be safe to say things in the whole entire field, even though you can still see the restroom there. Okay, but again, you have to make sure that the restroom is you still can't smell any smell from the restroom, even with the walls there. Okay, so this works as well. So another thing that will also work is that in the case of having a walled bathroom, that is, they have to be built specifically just for the toilet itself, okay, but if they're built with they're built attached to a house, okay, even though it's part of the bathroom, it's thicker and more resilient than the regular walls that were being used for the bathroom, and therefore, even if you're standing right outside of it, the wall itself is not specifically designated for the bathroom. So that also would be different nowadays as well. This is we're still in halacha here, if you can imagine, where we build a bathroom and it's perfectly enclosed inside. So you have an exterior wall of the house, Then there's the interior wall, which is basically drywall. So in those cases as well, that's how you could daven in your house. Otherwise, if you didn't have that, you wouldn't be able to daven in your house because the bathroom would be a problem. So you can close the door, and the thing is basically sealed off. The door itself would also be considered sealed off because you have a doorway and then you have the door. So since the walls of it are not shared, plus also the excrement is never inside, it's always flushed away. Those are two reasons why that's acceptable. So that's why you can have a bathroom in your house and a bathroom in your shul and still be able to daven there, as long as it's kept away from the place where you are davening. Let's go to the second halacha over here. You designate an area as a bathroom, but no one's used it. Now, you could go ahead and daven in that same area where you can see it, but you still can't trust to use within it. Okay. Even if it's used one time, Mishnah explains, then you can't even look at it at all. It immediately becomes an old bathroom. Okay, so designating it isn't enough to make it disgusting, but once it's used once, then it makes it as disgusting as one that's a year old, 10 years old, whatever it is. Okay, but simply designating it doesn't make it into something. You need to have both a designation and an actual usage. Okay. However, if someone just went there one time, and then you clean it, and there also isn't any smell in there, so the Mishnah Berurah says one could actually still treat it like it's never been used until people know that it's meant to be used on a regular basis. Okay. And that was something he admits that he found this in another book somewhere else. Okay, so in many ways you should be able to stand right outside of it and recite the Shema, but some people say no. Okay, so the main point is that simply designating it is not enough to prohibit it. It has to be used. However, what we're saying is to still use it on the inside, since you designated it as a bathroom. Rabbis would still prohibit it as a place for prayer of any kind, so not only the Shema, but also Tefillah and Berurah Mazon. All right, and if you say something there, you don't fulfill your obligation for it. Okay, so and this stringency over here is even without the leniency of the Shulchan Aruch. This doesn't need to have any walls around it at all. Okay, and only that space itself would be a problem. So if you go ahead and set up a bathroom, and you set up basically a place for people to place themselves to go to the bathroom, and then you go ahead and raise up walls around it, in that case, the prohibition of being inside of it is the entire area inside of those walls. Outside of it would be permitted. So some people say that when you designate a bathroom, you could technically inside think about Torah laws. Okay, so that's because it's brand new, but you just can't say anything. However, some people say you can't say any blessings inside of it. So even if it's just designated, you write the word restrooms on the outside. You should still prohibit it anyway. So no room over there. All right, halacha 3. I thought this was actually going to be a lot faster, and this may pick up, okay? So this will get a little faster. We'll be able to get through 83 and 84 a day. All right, so if you say this building that I'm building will be used for the bathroom, okay? And this room will be the bathroom. And then you say, and also this, so they both become a bathroom, okay? They are both the same. However, if you say, and also this room, so that second one is a doubtful situation, whether it's considered designated, like we said in the third halakha. Therefore, if you've never said anything else, you can't recite inside of it, and if you've recited inside of it, you fulfill the obligation. So what we're basically saying is that it's a doubtful case on this law, on this rabbinic law. And maybe you meant to say that it was also the case, and so therefore we're going to be slightly stringent, but not enough to say that you have to repeat whatever you said in there. Halacha 4, a bathroom designated through digging a hole. Okay, so you've dug the hole. The opening itself is four arm lengths from the actual ditch itself. Okay, so it's like at a little incline. Okay, so it's kind of going down like that. So it rolls down and is like this. So, and it is set up on a slant so that the excrement itself will fall a certain distance immediately. Okay. And also the urine will roll away, will sort of run away. He says it will sink down, like he says the word he uses here. We'll go immediately into it. Then it's considered covered, and that area is permitted to recite Divrei Torah and blessing and things like that, assuming that there's no bad smell. And also, people don't urinate on the outside of the bathroom. So what you do is build this place with a lot of signs to make sure people know how to use it properly. The Ramah adds, that's my own commentary at the end of that. The Ramah says, but sometimes if people basically, they use it outside of it, so not all the time. Sure, we're not talking about an all the time thing. So what if you don't do it part of the time? So then you can't even think about Torah, and so much more so reciting the Shema. So it doesn't mean that it's covered. So we learned previously that in Siman Ayin, we learned previously that in 70, that when you have covered excrement, it's permitted to recite things there. And so therefore it's not considered a bathroom. Okay, the problem is when it's just sitting there. Okay, so therefore this would be a great way to prevent from having certain places out in the field be prohibited from Torah. However, people are urinating on the outside, and the Mishnah says it's even at a time when there is no other urine there, okay? And there's no additional smell. Why? Well, because now you turn the outside area into a bathroom, because people will just urinate wherever they want to around over here, and that's not considered a holy place, because it's outside of the hole. Okay? Now, how about if we put walls around it? So the Mishnah quotes the Taz that these walls are not going to have the same strict rule that we mentioned earlier. Okay? Because this is not a Torah level prohibition. So the problem before was that you might get excrement on the walls, and the walls themselves are considered latrine, and therefore that's the mess that you're going to make. However, people here are just using whatever spot to urinate in, not going directly in the hole. So therefore, you could be a little more lenient over here. So the Mishnah adds his own commentary. He says, so places where they make one special place for people to urinate, and those places are really gross, okay? And also the walls themselves smell from it. So then it should be just as bad as we said earlier, and it should be just as bad as what we'll learn about later on in chapter 87, that it's basically like using a regular urinal. And so therefore that's a Torah level prohibition. So this case of the Taz is not so clear. And he says later on that the Pri Megadim mentions this type of stringency that he quotes as well. Okay. The end of this chapter, we'll move on to the next one. He says, so a bunch of people that have a perforated bench, okay? So it means that there is a hole in it built like a toilet seat, okay? And that's where they drop their excrement. That is okay because the excrement isn't on the actual hole itself, and it's not a receptacle directly underneath the hole. And you cover the hole regularly with some type of cover. All right, so this is like an antiquated toilet, and you can't smell anything. All right, as I was going to say a minute. And so the Ramah adds that if you go ahead and recite anything in these type of places, you have to repeat them again. Okay, so you need a few things again just to restate it. So it's a box, it has a hole, there's no receptacle in the hole, and the hole is covered, okay? So this is like an antiquated latrine. So one is permitted to go ahead and recite the Shema in this place. So this is similar to the one of the previous halacha over here. And the reason why this is not considered an old bathroom is because you have to be able to see it because the place itself has obvious excrement in it. Okay, so this is more like a home that has a place designated in it for a bathroom, which we said since it's not considered only for excrement use, but you're sealing it off from the rest of the house, and it's not only for a bathroom, and also whatever receptacle you have in there isn't directly under it. Okay, and so that's why you should be leaning over here. However, many people disagree with the opinion of the Shulchan Aruch, and they say that you should treat this like any other bathroom. Why? Because you can still make a mess all over the entire thing. People must have been very messy back then, missing the hole all the time. And so that's the problem. You can't recite the Shema there, you can't daven near it, you can't say any Torah, no benching, no nothing. Okay? And you have to take this type of bathroom away from the house, and you have to move it at least arba amos away from behind you, or cover the whole thing that you build over here, this bench with a hole in it, with another cover over the entire thing. Okay, and that's even assuming that the outside itself is relatively clean, and you don't smell anything, and there's no receptacle inside of it. Okay. So the idea is that this thing should be prohibited itself. You have to cover, to make the double covering. Okay? And any other houses that have these type of little interior bathrooms, that especially like children's toilets, okay, that it should be covered, at least with cloth, when people want to daven inside the house. It's little children's toilets. And the reason why is because it's going to have some type of smell. All right, so the children's practice toilet should also be removed. Okay, and that's considered a bathroom, and so therefore you have to have your house clean from that, or the place where you're davening clean from that. Okay, so something over here about this perforated bench. So if you have this hole in this bench that was meant to be sat on, just like any other chair. Okay, and you place a bunch of pillows and stuff on it. However, when you need to actually use it for the bathroom, you take off all the pillows, and you take away the whole cover, and then you go inside of this receptacle inside of it. So that might be okay, because you're covering it with more than just itself, because you're covering it with cushions as well. As long as it says an extra covering on top of it. Okay, and so the Mishnah says that he has more to say about it in the Berurah Halacha. So look at that really quickly in the Berurah Halacha over here. There's a little bit to say, then we'll try to get some stuff in for the next Siman. So he says over here, if it's in Rabbi Akiva Eger, he points out that there's a difference between, again, going to the bathroom when you have excrement in there, and versus urinating in it. Okay, so that's the big difference. Okay, is this thing. So the difference is that this thing is a built out box. Okay, that is meant to be covered all the way, and so therefore, when if it's just being covered with this, people should be doubtful as to whether or not this opinion actually works. Okay, so he says the Mishnah basically isn't really clear about this. About what's considered problematic, but it's something to be different. So he says also you have to make sure that there isn't any schmutz on top of the excrement doesn't get on the actual cushions themselves. Okay, and they also don't have a smell. So because then it's the same problem. It's anything with the little kids' chairs. Okay, so that is the main point of it, and so therefore, if it's constantly emptied out, there's no smell in there, and you can't see anything or smell anything, then there's reason to be lenient on this. All right. That's the end of 83. Let's do 84. Okay. Can you recite the Shema in a bathhouse? All right. So this one's really long. I don't know if we're gonna have time to finish it. We shall try. We'll make our best effort to finish this one. So there's literally one halacha in it. There's just a lot of Mishnah Berurah, so I think we should be okay. So a brand new bathhouse. All right. So the problem with the bathhouses is there's a lot of naked people in there. Let's say it's brand new. Okay, and people have not been washing themselves in it. One may recite prayers in there, including the Shema. An older one, then if you're sort of in the outer structure of it, where everyone who stands there are all wearing their clothing, then you could recite the Shema there. Then there's a middle chamber where people are kind of changing. Some people are dressed, some people are undressed. So you can say, Shalom Aleichem to somebody, but you can't recite the Shema or Tefillah. The Ramah adds, it is permitted to think about Torah in that place. And the Shulchan Aruch continues, in the inner chamber where everybody's naked, all right, and everybody's washing themselves, you can't even say Shalom Aleichem to somebody. And you also can't respond Amen when you're in the bathhouse. Okay, that's because again, it's appropriate to. This is understand that these things are inappropriate because of people being undressed. Okay, so again, this rule is very similar to a bathhouse. Mr. explains that no one has ever used it. Even one-time usage makes it an old one, and therefore that's where it's this dispute about if it's designated versus not having been used. So on the outside, one may recite the Shema, even though we were more strict by bathroom. So that is different when you say over there, because over here, this is not as gross. It's just people not being dressed. So in a place where people are sometimes in a state of undress. So some people say that if now everyone's dressed, okay, or there's just nobody in it right now, nonetheless, the rule doesn't change. Okay, since it's meant to have people be undressed there, it therefore changes the status of that room, and one cannot recite anything in there. However, some people are lenient in this case. According to them, so any room where the bathing attendant would be there to clean up, and people are standing in there, and they often are not dressed. One is allowed to say holy things like say Torah, say Shema, or daven when no one is in there. Okay, so this is only in this dressing room in the middle over there. However, in the actual bathing room all the way on the inside, this permission will never be allowed because people are naked in there. It's also somewhat gross, and so therefore it takes on the same rules as a bathroom. And so therefore, even with nobody's there, since it has the grossness and the possibility of people being naked in there, it's considered equivalent to a bathroom. However, we don't mention that by a bathroom, but we say they're equivalent. If it's in the wintertime, when it's less popular to use these bathhouses, nonetheless, it doesn't lose its status as a bathing house, and so therefore it still retains its rules similar to a bathroom. Okay, and even in the place where it's warmed by an oven or something else that keeps it warm, so maybe radiant heat or something like that, or steam heat. So instead of being a bathhouse, it becomes a place where people stay in the wintertime. So therefore, one could actually go ahead and turn it into a home. And then they would have to put a mezuzah up, and they could daven there. Any place where you completely clean it out and change the structure the way that it works, and things like that. That would be fine. So if you close up the bathtub and all the other things, and put your thing on top of it. Okay. So we have a few more rules over in here. He says. So we say that one can't say any of these, can't greet people with Shalom Aleichem, can't say any blessings, can't learn Torah. So that if you go ahead and say something there, this is a little bit more lenient than than a toilet, where you wouldn't have to repeat it again. Okay, even if somebody did walk in with no clothes on to the middle room, okay? So and you don't see them, you just realize later on the other side of that room there was somebody that didn't have their clothes on, and you were turned away and were looking at the wall and didn't see them. That would be fine. How about if you were in a place where people are immersing? Okay, so they say that a place where people are immersing in a mikvah, it's considered actually like the middle room that we've just discussed in a bathhouse, and not like the actual washing room. So it means that you can't say the blessings there, any blessing at all. The only blessing one may say is the blessing on actual immersion itself, because you have to say that blessing. And therefore, since we were told to make those blessings, then that's the only one you're allowed to say. And actually, one can also recite the Shema in there as well. He doesn't mention that, but it's very common to do that. The common practice to also have people who are converting to say the Shema at the time of conversion while standing in the water. So it's so you could do both of those things. That's assuming that, again, since people aren't washing themselves, it's not as gross, and so therefore, if the only person who doesn't have any clothes on is the person standing in the mikvah, they're allowed to go ahead and recite the Shema. This isn't such a chiddush because we learned previously that if one was in the water and they cross their arms across their chest, you could recite the Shema. Okay. However, if there's other people in the room and you need to say a blessing on your immersion, you would have to then turn and face away from them, because if you're turning and facing them, they don't have any clothes on. Okay. So, and this is both for men and women as well when they're making a blessing on their immersion. And so, what the Pri Megadim says is that that's why you have to always be in the water itself. So he points it out that we saw this in 74, and that's why you have to basically put your arms across your chest and all that stuff. Okay. So that makes the most sense to make this blessing, since you yourself are also not uncovered, because then you would have other problems as well that you're not covered. Okay. Let's see. And you can't make any other blessings, even according to the strict opinion. Let's see, what else over here? So there's an opinion of the Magen Avraham, who says that other blessings could be made as long as it's not super steamy and smells when people sweat. So that wouldn't be so bad. And our mikvahs, he says, are heated, so it's going to be a little bit different. Okay, so there's a little bit of steam, and so this may not be the steam of a regular bathhouse, and so therefore we could probably be lenient in these cases. Okay, but if it was a little bit steamy, the only thing you say is the blessing on the immersion. Okay, and let's finish up over here. And why can't you say Shalom Aleichem? Because Shalom is the name of Hashem, so it's not appropriate to say it in that place. And if a guy's name is Shalom, some people say you shouldn't say Shalom to Shalom, right? Don't talk to Shalom. Or just call him Shulam or Sam or something else if you call him another name, a name in another language that doesn't sound like Shalom. Okay, so that seems to be that. Okay, and you also shouldn't say any other name of a person that sounds like Hashem's name, or a name that has a name. Okay, so other names, for example, so you can call him Shalu, and not call him Shalom, is what he says, or Shlon. Okay, so that's those are other possibilities. Okay. So, and we're not answering our main. If someone, you hear them standing outside, they say a bracha. If they go outside, they have a Coca-Cola, and you hear them from standing in the mikvah, you shouldn't answer our main. Okay? So that's what we're talking about over there. And that's why we also say you shouldn't respond to Shalom Aleichem in the bathroom, because you can't say anything. So anything that has to do with saying Shalom or saying Amen, one shouldn't do that in the bathroom at all. And you shouldn't be thinking of the Divrei Torah at all. Try to clear your thoughts. Think about adding holiness to yourself and not talking at all. Some people will only talk in the very outer chambers, and that's the common custom. They won't talk at all in the inner ones. And let's see. All right, mezuzah. Where do you put the mezuzah on the bathhouse? So the mezuzah in the bathhouse goes on the outside. Okay. The what's it called? It doesn't go on the outside. I was gonna say that doesn't make any sense. Okay, so the mezuzah for a bathhouse. So for sure, the inner two are exempt, and so too when it has another courtyard in front of it, and there's a gate and a door frame for the door. Those things are also exempt. Okay, and also the area for the however, the place if someone lives adjacent to the bathhouse, that little room that they live in is a normal room and should have a mezuzah on it. Okay, so it has to, but you have to make sure the mezuzah is covered because sometimes people may enter the room without any clothes on, and that wouldn't be appropriate. And let's see. So, and there's something called a melt house. I'm not sure what it's referring to, but there's certain type of places where they would be like a sauna. And since people sometimes wash themselves in there and they're not dressed, and it's used a couple times this way, and also the lighter house. Okay, so these places, even because most people there are generally dressed when they're inside of it, but you have to still cover them. This is a closed door and have it on the outside and have the door closed. Okay, and if you have a room that's designated with a bathtub in it, that's considered the inside and it would be exempt from a mezuzah. So a couple mezuzah laws over here in this halacha, so that's always fun. And we're gonna hold it here. We'll pick up next time when we next rejoin our heroes. We will talk about what other places are prohibited to recite the Shema, and that are similar to a bathhouse. Thank you very much for joining our class today. Went a little bit longer than normal, but we got a lot covered. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you next time.